Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat. And this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
Welcome back, you guys. This is your girl, Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey, Kat.
Hey, Moni.
How are you?
Oh, I'm actually feeling pretty good.
Okay, good.
I'm on the cusp of being overwhelmed. I can tell it could happen very easily if I don't keep it at bay.
Okay, well, be a strong black woman. That's what I'm going to need from you today, right now, and
Yes.
always. So, yes, with that in mind, you guys, we have a book today. We are actually going to be reviewing The Resilience Myth, New Thinking on Grit, Strength, and Growth After Trauma by Soraya Chemaly. And this kind of gets into what I just said to you, friend, being a strong black woman and just sort of, the cultural idea around what resilience is and what that looks like and what that means. And I'm excited to get into it. So
I am too.
I want to give you guys a little bit of a summary of the book. So here we go. In this thought-provoking exploration, cultural critic Soraya Chemaly challenges our most dearly held common myths of resilience and dismantles the notions of resilience rooted in the philosophies of mind over matter, mental toughness, strength, positive thinking, arguing that our modern version of resilience is a bill of goods sold to us by capitalism, colonialism, and ideologies that embrace supremacy over others.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not nothing. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It was meaty, I think is how I described it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a week where I might have needed more popcorn.
Oof. Yeah. And then it was like this book called on you to be resilient, the very thing that is being
Right, because that was the thing. Like I'm
oh man.
I have a lot of coping skills. So a lot of times what my coping skill is, it's like, oh yeah, I'll get something, kind of, silly. And I was like, but this is very real. But
is real.
also you have to have substance in your life. Not everything can be Doritos.
It would be nice though, because Doritos are good. They're terrible for you, but I like Doritos.
I just want my Cool Ranch freedoms.
Man, don't we all, friend? Don't we all? All right, so you guys, I think before we get into this book, we should probably dedicate this episode. So hands over your hearts. So if you made it back here, you guys, thank you so much. I want to dedicate this episode first to our patrons. You guys are the best. Thank you for your continued support. And really to all of our listeners and supporters, whether that's on social media or if you follow us on YouTube, wherever you find us, we appreciate you. Also, this week, I want to dedicate this to, I guess the idea of resilience in general, because I think the way that we take in resilience, it makes us feel like we have to be everything to everyone all the time. And that's just really, that's hard and it's impossible. So for you guys out there taking care of, whether it's extended family, older parents or grandparents, your children, trying to take care of yourself, your loved ones, your friends, trying to check all these boxes. Shout out to you. You're doing a great job. Keep it up and don't be so hard on yourself because it's hard out here. What about you, friends?
Yeah, be nice to yourself. Yes. Be nice. Be so nice to yourself. Like, be ridiculously nice to yourself. Like, get yourself an ice cream in the morning. You have money. You can do that. You're an adult. Like, no one will stop you. It's great. It's like finally having an ice cream for breakfast. I did it. My dedication this week is going out to the F.A.B. Bickford Glick Neighborhood Center. They have their 40th anniversary this week, and I was invited to do a live paint to help celebrate. Yes, I was.
How exciting.
So it was very exciting. It was also very personal to me because that's the location where my son went to Head Start, which for people who don't know is a wonderful social program that
Socialist.
It's so scary. But like that my son went to, and I think really helped to prepare him for school. He did very well academically. He just recently graduated from college. So yeah, there's a lot of political, that's usually one of those things that a lot of conservatives, they're very against Head Start for some reason, but I think it's because they don't understand like the true value of it. Because I really do believe that most people want the best for our society. So I encourage people to learn more about, programs like this, like for universal pre-K and things like that. It helped me go to school so that I was able to provide for him. So yeah, So yeah, big dedication to their director there, Miss Patrice. You could just see you could tell it was a really good environment.
Awesome.
It's really healthy. Not surprising, a lot of women. So dedication over. Oh, also dedication to Alien Romulus. I went and saw that. It was my dedication from last week, but I hadn't seen it yet. But now I've seen it. So good.
Really?
So good. But like when we're talking about the universal pre-K, because I feel like our author talked about that.
Yeah.
About how this idea of resilience the myth is rooted in like independent bootstrapping.
Oh, yeah.
But in reality, you're gonna need some help.
You're gonna need some help. I agree. Okay, so second dedication to the Alien movie. Maybe we'll...
It's just...
She found a way to slide that in, guys.
It's so good on so many levels, guys.
Oh,
so
man.
good.
Okay. All right. So, do you have any information on our author today? Do you mind telling the people a little bit about Miss Soraya?
I'm so glad you asked. As it so happens, I do. Soraya Chemaly, is it Molly or Maley?
Chemaly.
Soraya Chemaly is an award-winning writer and activist whose work focuses on the role of gender in culture, politics, religion, and media. She's the director of Women's Media Center Speech Project and an advocate for women's freedom of expression and expanded civic and political engagement. A prolific writer and speaker, her articles appear in Time, The Verge, The Guardian, The Nation, HuffPost, and The Atlantic. Fancy. Follow her on Twitter at @Chemaly and learn more at SorayaChemaly.com.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, so
she's that girl.
She's an academic.
Yes, she is. Don't play with her.
Intellectual.
Don't play with her.
Bona fides. Like she knows how to cite her sources.
Which is awesome. And then too, guys, if you're reading this book, the hardcover book, it's 304 pages. The audiobook was about 8 hours and 20 minutes. It was published May 21st of 2024. So this is a fairly new read.
Yeah, she references January 6th.
Listen, but I found this read on a podcast called Terrible Thanks for Asking.
We're right back where we started.
Right back where we're starting. Okay.
Is it called Terrible Thanks for Asking?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah. How'd you know? How'd you decipher that, friend? Yeah, but it's hosted by this lady. Her name is Nora McNeary. And she had lost her husband, her dad, a pregnancy, and she kept hearing people describe her as resilient. And she kind of resented it. And it was like, she knew that people meant it as a compliment, but it didn't feel like that because she didn't feel resilient. It's like, what does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean exactly? And so she ended up having Soraya on the show, and they were having this conversation, and I was into it. I just thought it was a really great conversation, and it's something that we face a lot, like I think in a lot of areas of our lives. And so I really want to jump into the book and be able to review it. So it's broken down into 10 chapters. I do feel like, it wasn't a super long read. I feel like I got through it quickly. However, yes, and you, it was definitely a meaty book.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that you could listen to a couple times and probably
Get
stuff, make notes.
Yeah.
Like so much research, so much context. She put a lot into it. So I really, really, yeah, you noticed that.
I think we said like it could be a course.
Yes.
Like it would, because I was saying it was very academic. And so it could definitely be taught over a semester because each chapter, it does have a lot that goes into it. And she spans the history of not just of our nation, but other nations, because this is something that doesn't, even though it resonates a lot with sort of the American capitalist mindset, like it exists in other spaces too.
Absolutely. And it was kind of highlighted with her background because, she is, she grew up in the Bahamas. So she's Bahamian, her nationality. And her dad was from Haiti. Her mom was Bahamian. So I thought it was interesting to have somebody that wasn't from the States kind of talking about this, but also still impacted. So she had the lived experience of being here in the States and on an island, and just kind of contrasting those two things. And just, her point of view is just, I don't know. For me, it just got me together. I really
Yeah.
It's like, wow, she's saying all the things I feel all the time, just in terms of just, what we're up against when we think about the expectations of, what we have to do every day just to survive. And that's on top of when something actually happens. You know what I mean? So I don't know where you want to start this off at, but.
Well, I was going to start with just even the title, because this idea of prevailing myths, because we have a lot of myths in our society that I feel like harm us. So to me, that's always fascinating, because I want to, it's not like I'd even go so far to say that I don't believe in any myths. But to me, it's always interesting when you're able to target and be like, oh yeah, I always have just believed that without questioning it. Like, let me look at that and really think about that. And for me, I think I kind of early in life kind of honed in on the BS of this idea of me by myself, I'm so strong. Like, to me, it's always been very obvious, and maybe it's because of a little show called Star Trek, that great things are accomplished with cooperation.
Yeah.
So this idea, a prevailing myth is this idea of the lone brave man who does it all alone in the face of adversity. Like, I've always known, like, that's a myth. Like, everything that's really been accomplished in life has been the work, sometimes multi-generational work.
Yeah, absolutely. And she just, I feel like she has so many stories that sort of illustrated sort of where we got that from in our culture. She was talking about the explorer. I don't know if you remember his name, but he was trying to make it to the South Pole. And she kept talking about this guy. Well, and let me see if I can find it.
I'm sorry. I started listening to it last night on 1.7 speed.
1.
So
this is a fake ass book club. I love it so hard.
It was, yeah.
Jeez
so I
Louise.
don't remember the name of the South Pole guy.
Okay, well, one of the poles, it could have been the North one. But anyway, a lot of it, she was just saying that, he's used as this example all of the time of, like, because he basically dragged hundreds of people, into this exploration, and a lot of them did survive. Not like there weren't casualties as far as, like, people were missing toes, like they were stuck. Like,
that's the one where they ate the dogs.
Yes.
Okay,
girl,
I
yes.
know. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'll get the name in the notes so that you guys know what I'm talking about. But it's like, we use these stories, we use these narratives to demonstrate this sort of, like, see, like, it's always like,
if you try hard enough, you can do it.
Not even if you try hard enough. It's like, even if you're in the North or South Pole, whichever one it was, and you're destitute, it's like it doesn't matter. And it was like, it was all attributed to him. And it wasn't even like, you have this team of people making this.
That's like when people, like, climb Mount Everest and stuff. Like, that's pretty much just the Sherpas. Like the guides and stuff like that it's a whole, basically, if you have enough money, you can do it.
And I like that she kind of points that out too, though. Like, there's just a lot of it where
it's not resilience. You just have a lot of privilege.
You have a lot of privilege. And the thing is that, like, even so, one of my most favorite points that she made in this book was really just the what it costs to be somebody who supports, nurtures, and you're the backbone of something, right? Like, you're not the person necessarily getting the, like, shine for that, but you're the people. It's the reason why, like, anytime I can, I'm always like, let's shout out the people behind the scenes doing all this, because it's like, yeah, we're the people you see right now, and we're representing this, but all of the shit that it takes to make something happen, make it look good, for people to feel comfortable. So whether that's you taking care of your kids, whether that's education, whatever it is, whatever sector that falls in, it's like, it's not just the person out front, it's the whole structure behind it. And so there's an emotional tax to that I don't think gets sort of recognized when we're talking about resilience.
It's not seen as valuable because we don't pay for it, because everything's just about, like, well, just give me money. And it's like,
but could you get money, though? Like, if you didn't have the people holding you down, could you get money? Like, that's the thing. Like, in the workforce, when we think about,
it's just societally, like, what do we value? Because I feel like when we were talking earlier about when I was talking about Head Start and how people, like, kind of hate socialism, it's been demonized. But I think that's a myth. This myth that socialism is somehow bad. Like, you know what is a product of socialism? Libraries. We love those. Those are a social good. Like, these are things that you don't and you don't have to participate in libraries if you don't want to.
You sure don't.
But also, there's no barrier to entry either. Like, this is something we've decided is a social good. So, this idea that Oh, I lost the thread of it. But I had another point though, which was, well, no, it's just the idea that like socialism, like, because I was saying like with preschools, that's it. Like this idea that the care economy, that's the word I was looking for. The idea that the care economy is worth investing into, or like starting programs where we pay people to care for aging relatives, you know, that kind of stuff where it's like, this is work.
And the thing is that the people doing the work a lot of the time are women, and that's why it's not valued. And it's like, it's
what you're supposed to do.
It's what you're supposed to do. And it's like,
I do want to do this work,
and you're
but
right.
I
You're
also
supposed to take care of old people.
have to live.
Yeah.
Like the system we're set up in right now, maybe it'll be like Star Trek in the future, but right now, the way it's set up is you have to have money. And then it goes, even expands into the idea of universal basic income, where it's just like, yes, you deserve to live in our society. Here is a means to do that.
Absolutely.
One of the chapters that was interesting was when she was talking about vampires.
So, what chapter was that, friend? Do you remember?
I don't know. It was earlier on.
Okay. These were all the chapters here.
I don't know. It was just in there because she was talking about Twilight, and she was talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Let's get into it.
So I was like, because I actually remember reading Bram Stoker's Dracula in high school. And so I remember it was actually one of the first books where I read ahead. Because you know how, you're assigned like read chapters, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, wait, they assigned it to you?
Yeah.
I thought you meant you just read it in school.
No. This is for English class. Like, in high school, for English class, we were reading a couple chapters and then discussing it in class. And I remember it was one of the first times I was like really excited about English. I was like, this was like really interesting. And I'm like, I'm reading ahead and I'm actually, talking about it in class. I'm like, yes, like going, it was very nerdy. It was very nerdy. And she was just talking about how that was actually a really good metaphor for all the anxieties at the time. And it was, all this different stuff. And then when she was breaking down Twilight, because we read Twilight.
So hold on. You just told me I was going fast.
Oh, did I go too fast?
You were going very fast.
I'm sorry, I got excited because it was vampires.
It's okay. Vampires are
down.
exciting. Yeah.
So then she moved on and contrasted that to how the vampires were in Twilight. And me and you had read Twilight when it had come out, stuff like that. And I genuinely enjoyed it. Yeah. But I do remember the last book, I was like, this is pretty messed up. When, what's her name?
Bella.
The maid, Bella, when Jacob was like, oh yeah, I imprinted on your daughter. And she was like, no, I'll kill you. Like to me, that was so groomy. Where it was just like, oh, he's like, I'm not going to do anything to her until she gets older. It's like, no, that's...
So you're just waiting for her. You're just like...
It's so predatory. I remember on an episode of Community, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. And Jeff Winger, like the main character, he was talking about, it's like, if you paid any attention to those movies, the theme is...
I need to turn that off.
All right, yeah, because this is a banger right here.
Yeah, we got to get that off. We got to get that off. Yeah.
It's like, pin in what Jeff Winger said. It's like, shut up, we want some humidity.
And you go back and see this video, you guys like, what?
It is very funny.
Who are we and what are we doing?
I usually am chuckling quite a bit. Yes, that is kind of the vibes.
Okay, yes.
But no, Jeff Winger, he was like, if you paid any attention to those movies, the theme is men are monsters who crave young flesh.
Jeez. I wasn't prepared for that quote.
Yeah, like he had. If I have time, we'll see what's going on when I'm editing this. I'll try to find the clip or whatever. But yeah, yeah. So this idea of she's just talking about just societally about how we get these ideas of sort of like just patriarchal, like dominance, like these anxieties we get, this dominance mentality we get into. So and just the different places it comes from. But like it was when she laid out the whole Twilight thing. Because she laid it out in a whole different way about how, like, she's just about how they're the Cullens, or they're just this, like, they're superior in their intellect. And then they literally, because really think about the fact that if you were because how old is Edward supposed to be?
Ooh, I mean, old as fuck. Like everybody's died. He's a bunch of times. Like he's old.
So he's like 200 years old?
Sure.
Okay. But for some reason, he wants to hang out at a high school.
With somebody who's 16.
Saying he likes to stay mentally engaged. I'm like,
You
so
should be
take
at
a master's
Be
class.
at the library.
You could take master class online. They're not even paying us for a promotion. You could just, there's so many ways to, I mean, I'm not 800 years old yet, but like to me, I would find high school kind of boring at this point, a little.
100%.
I wouldn't be stimulated.
He's 104 in the book.
Okay, sorry. So if I was
But still.
104, so yeah, no, it was super creepy. Like just the idea.
And he
He's
has
like,
2 graduate degrees too, so he definitely needs
and
something
he was
more
like, yeah, I'll
compelling
wait till
than-
you're 18 before I turn you into a vampire.
And she was honestly on the sidebar. Like I read these books because I was in school and I was so tired of reading school books and they were very popular. So I was like, I just need a break. And I did enjoy them, but I hated her character. I didn't like her because she was not compelling. So Edward as a 104-year-old vampire, come on. It was just a pheromone thing. It had to be just she smelled delicious. It had nothing to do with her being
He was like,
engaging.
you're just so interesting. I'm glittery. Okay, so
Sorry. So sidebar, but just
okay,
had to
but
put that out
moving
there.
on.
Yeah.
Another concept she brought up was cognitive flexibility.
Ooh, gotta
which
have
I
that.
think is super important for Well, let's go back a little bit. First with resiliency, I like the idea because it reminded me of, I think, from How to Be Perfect, where we have that idea of I am because we are. So this idea of like, I'm not making myself this person. It is very much the people around me and the environment that I'm in. And so then I feel a responsibility to have a positive and nurturing environment for people who are coming in and have to develop as well.
You know what's interesting? Because we've talked about this. I remember when we did the Michael Schur episode. What was the book?
How to Be Perfect.
Yeah, How to Be Perfect. We touched on we're talking about a lot of different philosophies, and the one was Ubuntu, I think it is. And it's an African.
Why'd you say it
philosophy.
quiet? Say it loud.
Ubuntu. Ubuntu.
There we go.
But yeah, it's exactly that. I am because we are, and that was one of my favorite parts of that because it feels so intuitive to me that I can't understand why this isn't what we're doing.
Well, because of the prevailing myths we're taught about how if you're awesome, it's just because of you.
You're awesome
You're so
'cause
Kentucky
you-
Fried awesome, and everybody else who isn't thriving the way you are is because they're not as awesome as you.
Yeah, and it's like they're not even trying hard.
They're
Like, what
not
are they
trying hard.
doing?
Where are their bootstraps even?
Yeah, why aren't they pulling
So
them up?
yeah, this idea, and that's why we get away from wanting to fund programs that lift people up because it's like, well, I don't want to give a handout. It's like, do you know how many handouts people like? You don't earn. I don't think you have to earn being treated well. Like to me, that
That's
should just
crazy.
be the default. Like somehow you have to earn that, but whatever.
Like you're here.
Yes. So
Like,
then, and to springboard to that, to cognitive flexibility, which is the idea to know that maybe the first thing you were taught might not be the right thing.
Yeah, for sure.
To me, that's the biggest thing about cognitive flexibility. I remember one time being out on a date with a gentleman.
Oh,
It's a long
was he a
time ago.
gentleman?
I'm just communicating that this person was male. Okay. And so like years and years ago, and I don't know what we're talking about, but it just came up that he admired the 9/11 attackers, not for what they did, but just for their level of faith. And I was like, I was like, so you admire the fact that they were so committed to a belief system that they committed an atrocity? Like, to me, that's the opposite of what you should admire about people. To me, I'm usually more impressed by people like Dr. Seuss, who are able to realize like, oh, I haven't been approaching this correctly. Let me flip this around and maybe even take actions to correct my past mistakes.
Wow.
That's strength.
wild. So needless to say, there was no other dates after that.
No, I'm stupid.
Okay. All right. So moving on. You know,
I'm smarter now, though.
That's good.
Like
Hopefully you
now,
learned.
now if that happens, then no, there wouldn't be any more dates.
Because what you mean?
I had such low standards. I just was.
Listen, it's okay. We don't have to defend that
I
now.
was just
You're-
like,
we're
he's
better
gotta.
now.
It's like he's a productive adult.
Oh my gosh. But so The bar's low. But yeah, so yes, and that kind of ties into the conversation we had last week about just blind faith and how problematic that can be. And I think that when we talk about resilience, with Scientology, yes, that it kind of goes into that, because a lot of the myths that we hear, or a lot of the stories or narratives around what resilience is, they're so indoctrinated, right? Like, we do hear these things about, like, take for instance, so when I think about resilience, I think about, of course, Black people. I'm Black. But just one thing in particular that always strikes me is sort of, the whole propaganda that was built around, like, watermelons, for instance, for Black folks, right? That whole narrative that, for some reason that, like, we're supposed to be ashamed of eating watermelons at this point, and people, we get in our feelings about it. But the resilience of Black folks at that time, I mean, it was an easy crop. People were able to grow this fairly easy without a lot of space. They could sell these on the side of the road like a lot of vendors do, or farmers and stuff. And they're good. And the fact that they saw Black people making money in this way, and it
has a natural UV protection.
Man, watermelons are good on so many levels. And I mean, so I'm saying this to say, like, the resilience that it takes after something like, I don't know, slavery, to be like, what can I do? What can I do? But then it's like turned against you. It's turned into something that's supposed to make you feel ashamed. There's all this propaganda to make it seem like, you're just a lazy person sitting around eating watermelons. I don't know. But I just think about the resilience of people during that time, like, where you have all of these really negative sort of, stories about you. So, like, now because even when I went to Japan, like, that was imagery that I saw, like, in Americana, like when I saw in, like, an American themed restaurant. And it's like, it's complicated, and it's...
Yeah, they really like Sambo.
Yeah, but it is American culture, and we shouldn't shy away from it. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I'm just saying, like, I think it gets weaponized, like, to me, that was an example of resilience of people who were put in a situation where it's like, okay, what can I do? And then when you are trying, there's a story that gets created to make you feel like you're a piece of shit somehow. You want me to bootstrap, but when I'm bootstrapping, you're going to sell the story that I'm a piece of shit while I'm trying to pull myself up when there's no protections. Mind you, there's no Homestead Act for me. There's no land given to me. There's no handouts. So... I don't love that. And so, I don't know. When I think about resilience, it's like...
So, it made me think of Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z, because you're talking about Japan and just how they're...
That's who that is?
Yeah.
I've seen him. I didn't know.
Mr. Popo.
Popo or Bobo?
It's Mr. Popo.
Oh, that's Mr. Bobo. Sorry. Okay.
I was wrong. And Google was like, I know what you mean, dum-dum.
Okay. It showed you both in case you didn't know.
Yeah. But
oh man.
Yeah.
Turn that around. That's big enough.
I
can see that.
Yeah, I won't have to look it up earlier and add it.
Do yourself a favor. And so I'm just saying, I think it gets frustrating too, because you feel gaslit in a way when it's like, I think we've displayed, women, people of color, marginalized groups. There's so much resilience that it takes to even just exist in these systems sometimes. And so, like, to be made to feel like you're not doing enough, and when you are doing enough, it's always poo-pooed.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's
not.
Did you make $1 million? It's like, well, no, I just stayed alive. Is that not enough? It's no.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
It's never enough. Another thing, because while I was listening to the book, this came to mind, and then the author actually directly mentioned it, The Deepest Well. And ACEs, the ACE score.
She sure did.
So, because to me, it was bringing up a lot of that, where this idea that your childhood trauma can shorten your health outcomes and shorten your life. And the fact that somehow this is, it makes it seem like you're just not as a resilient person, but it's like, no, I actually have like factors that make it harder for me to stay alive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the other part about what I was saying, when I feel like you're not factoring in what it takes just to be in certain different demographics, because there are so many things that maybe you don't have to think of. Like if you are somebody who has like, for instance, when I was listening to the episode that made me want to read this book, she was talking about the fact that Nora, who is the host of Terrible Thanks for Asking, she was like, I feel like people kept complimenting me on something that, like, I was doing, or like like a part of my personality or something. She was like, I'm resilient because I have support, because I'm lucky enough to have a mom who, because I had all of these things happen, could help support me. I could stay with her during a time where I didn't have any help, or the medical bills were piling up and I had financial assistance from A, B, and C. She was like, there were structures in place to hold me up. It wasn't like it was because I'm good and I'm doing all these things. She was like, I was lucky enough to have that. And it made her sort of reflect on the fact that, like, when people go through things like this who don't have these support, whatever that marginalized group is, it made her feel kind of like this compassion toward them. Like, this has to be crazy for you, because I felt crazy when people were saying it and I had all this help. And then there are people out here who don't have, social things in place, whether it's because maybe, you don't have family in the same city as you and you're in an abusive relationship. So there is no one to call, or, you know what I mean? Or you don't have.
Because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think about how lucky I am to be able to, barely afford sending my kids to a school that I want to send them to. And what's even sadder is that I don't feel comfortable sending them to where my tax dollars go.
Right.
And I don't feel any kind of way about my tax dollars going toward the schools, because they need to be there. But everybody's kids deserve to be educated. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't be just reserved for people who have the resources.
I feel like it's one of the things
weird.
That's lacking from our philosophy around education here in the States is the idea that there should be bad schools.
Like, why?
Like, yeah, this idea of like there should be this sort of competition so that your kids want to go to the good school, as opposed to let's just have all good schools. And knowing that means different things for different people. Like, not all schools should be this sort of mill.
Right.
Like, there's going to be different environments, but also making sure that everyone is welcomed in that school, because I feel like one of the really interesting things that was pointed out to me as to why sometimes it's very unfair to compare like a charter or private school to a public school is because public schools have to accept everybody.
Have to.
Private schools and charter schools don't have to accept everybody. And they don't have to make certain accommodations. So if you open a magnet for gifted test takers, like, yeah, you're going to have better, the things. And also we need better metrics for how we measure that a school is doing well, because standardized testing, that's not what this is about.
No, it's not. But I'm bringing, thank you for saying that, because that's true. And I mean, our state is going through, I can maybe add an article about this, but they're trying to change the requirements for our high school students in the state, and the high school requirements that they are now requiring for our kids, they wouldn't even be eligible to go to any of the top 10 schools in the state of Indiana.
They're like, no, you wouldn't.
It's like, yeah, they couldn't come here to Butler. They couldn't come here to IU. They couldn't come here to Purdue because they wouldn't have the credits. So I'm just saying that, like, why aren't we preparing all kids at all times, or like even like what you're saying, like maybe there's different schools that you can go to for different tracks, but I don't feel like it shouldn't depend on your zip code. I think no matter where you are, the school that your kids go to should be sufficient to educate them the way that they need to be. So, that's a sidebar.
Yes, but that would make them more resilient.
Period. It really would.
Period. Point blank. Like, because resilience is your community. Like, where was it? Grit is relational.
Yeah.
Like, so the more grit you have is directly proportional to how much support you have. It's not this solitary like thing. So, like I said, when I felt like I've gotten through tough times in my life, it wasn't because I was just so amazing. Like, no, I was falling apart, but there were people to help hold me up.
Amen.
So that's where the grit came from.
Yeah.
And another thing I really liked about this book, she brought up the doctrine of discovery from the Vatican, which is a big part of why colonialism was so terrible across the Americas and Africa, was this idea of, hey, if they're not, Christian, you can do whatever you want. And that
she took it back to before 1492, just a little bit before that.
Just so you know, like, this was the general policy. So, to me, that's not examined enough. The fact that this idea is still somewhat prevalent.
Yeah, I agree. And then she also mentioned another book that we looked at was the Nap Ministry, Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey. This was chapter 5, Resisting the Lure of Productivity, which is really hard for me. I do think, I mean, honestly.
Well, you've been programmed your whole life.
Like
the fact that you're aware of it is a miracle. So give yourself a little grace in that aspect, because imagine if you were just running that program and weren't aware of it. It's just like when your computer has a virus and you're like, damn it. But at least you know to X the screen out and you don't just keep clicking on more links.
Reboot.
Yeah, like, you know, and you just have to wait until you can, man, yeah, like I said, a hard reboot can take some time.
It definitely can. And so like kind of touching into what we were saying about school systems and stuff, there was a quote in there by a Dr. Tracy Edwards. So she was like, I want school systems designed with humans in mind that don't demand my resilience. I want educators to experience community care, support, and compensation, demeaning cash grabs for people's casual demand my resilience. Don't be looking over, like, don't be looking for
But I like to read.
I know, it makes me feel nervous when you're looking over my shoulder.
I'm sorry. I just like
stop.
Sorry. I'm gonna read my own paper.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna start all over. So Dr. Tracy Edwards, I want school systems designed with humans in mind that don't demand my resilience. I want educators to experience community care, support, and compensation. Demeaning cash grabs for people's casual entertainment don't count. And so this was after she kind of talked about this event, this community event where they were at this, the ice skating rink or something like that, where they had teachers. There was like $5,000 worth of cash that they threw up in the air and had like teachers scrambling for it.
It was basically like Squid Games.
How demeaning.
It was like
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's just like
they were making it rain.
Yeah, and I think that that's so true. It's like, why are the things that are the most important the things that we're willing to sort of, make people kowtow for, or people to, we have to scramble for resources, and then it's like some of this other stuff. I mean, listen, I value everything has a place, but these are the things that build who we are and how we relate to each other and how we think about ourselves. To me, those are the most important things. People can poo-poo being a mom and be like, because we'll be like, that's one of the hardest jobs. Do you think so?
Yeah.
A parent. We can just call it, is it easy? Are you nailing it?
I'm like, yeah.
But I've heard have you ever heard anybody say, I don't know what they're complaining about? Like, what's so hard? Like, all you have to do is give them a sandwich, put them down for a nap, or... Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you hear that narrative.
This idea that it's not real work.
How would you defend that? Or what would be the opposite point that you would like that person making that point? What would you say to them?
You mean, like, okay.
Yeah, like, how do you rebut that? Because I think that's dangerous.
Assuming I didn't assault them.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Just with your words, like
just
you like.
Just with my words, like I really do. Because, like, what am I really going to do? I don't have body strength.
Wrists.
Look at this.
They're
this
flimsy.
is like,
it's cute and soft. It's
yeah.
nice.
Okay. So, it's so hard to me because it's the same thing as like when people try to come up with flat earther stuff. I'm like, to me, this is so obviously wrong. Like, what's wrong with you? But
I'm judging you.
But because this is the internet and this is where we are now. Mm-hmm. If someone's trying to explain to me, like, what is so hard about being a parent? You just give them a snack, you lay them down. Well, for one, there's a certain amount of ableism involved in that because it's like, what if your child has special needs? That has a whole nother level to it. And even if they don't have special needs, they still have regular ass needs, and those never stop. So I think the relentlessness of it and the fact that the stakes are so high that if I do a bad job at this, I've damaged society. I've made a criminal.
Period.
So that's why the stakes is high. Like, do you want me to make a murderer or do you want a civil engineer?
Period. And that's the point though. Like, I think that it's like, well, you're not up on a roof or you're not down under the ground. Like, okay, those aren't just the things that are hard. I almost sometimes I would rather do, and I'm not saying I want to work in sewer work. I ain't saying none of that. I certainly don't want to be on a roof or whatever. But I sometimes will pick things that I know are physically taxing over things that are emotionally and psychologically challenging. Because there is no fucking escape.
It's like, I will dig a ditch with some earbuds in. Let's go. But can we take a break?
So that's all I'm saying. And yes, we can take a break. Yes.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys, so welcome back from the break. Wow, friends.
Wow, we do so much.
You know what? I feel like every single time we have a book that is like meaty like this, I feel like we speed through it.
We do.
And so I want to recognize that I feel like maybe there are people out here who can review this book in a way that is way more in depth and get you there. But I mean,
I think we have the longest review of this book on YouTube once I upload it because I thought about maybe not reading the book and just listening to a review on it on YouTube, but all the reviews were only like 3 minutes long. Oh, really? So I knew it wasn't going to be enough to fake my way through it. So I went ahead and just got the book. But yeah, so I think we have, if we don't have the best, we have the longest.
Okay, the longest is
and
good.
I want to get a book bell.
What's that?
It's a bell that we ring when we've read a book.
Okay. Well, we could put a virtual in. That means you have to do stuff.
No, I want a big bell, like a big school
school
bell,
one.
like the shame one, or like that cowbell from the Will Ferrell thing,
or the Olympics.
Like we read a book. What?
Or the Olympics. They had a giant bell. You ring
Oh,
the bell
they
in
did
track.
when you won.
Ding, ding, ding,
yeah, like a liver. That's too big though.
Oh.
I think just the handbell.
Okay.
Or cowbell.
Okay. Are you gonna get one?
I'm not
gonna stop you from ringing the bell, friend. It got you very hyped, so I'm gonna let you have it.
Let me bring up my last favorite thing from the book.
Okay.
Which was, I'm not sure who she was quoting. If I have time to look it up later, I'll put it in the notes or whatever. But it was this idea, because we were talking about statues, about how, it's been a flashpoint in our history where it's like some of these statues are coming down. Some people don't want them to come down. And she was quoting this woman who was like, look, I'm a woman from the South. And my my brown skin is very much a monument as to what went down here.
Yeah, I like that too.
I liked that a lot. And she said it better. And if I can have time, I'll put in the audio clip. But if I don't put it in, guys, just be cool.
Yeah. Read the book.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're here. We're here to entice you. We're hoping that you want to read this book because it was very, very good. I mean, for me, I just thought overall, it gave voice to a lot of the feelings that I feel. The stresses of nurturing roles aren't built into our system of resilience, and we don't talk about it a lot. We certainly don't value it a lot. And, for the most part, I feel like we're collective resources for other people to not be so stressed sometimes. So whether we're talking about people of color, if we're talking about immigrants, if we're talking about, caregivers, educators, it's the kind of work that is so important, and that if we didn't have these people in these roles, society would collectively fall apart.
It would.
And so I think it is great to kind of pose the question of like, is this really what we want for our like society? Is this the best way to move forward? Is this how we grow? Is this really serving us? And I just really love the way.
Or is it what we
asked.
just been doing?
Because sometimes it's that.
Yeah.
And that can be hard.
And it's easy. Like, we're human beings. It's like it's kind of what we're built for. But we also have the ability to change. That's our gift.
Because what was it? The cognitive flexibility. Like, it kind of goes back to that. Just, allowing yourself the space to think about things, and then, shift your perspective based on like what is actually needed, or what could be. And sometimes that is hard because it is aspirational things. I will say they're not concrete. It's not always clear, but I like getting this conversation started about rethinking resilience
and being better.
Being
better is just more work though than just stasis.
And we can't just expect certain people to be better all the time.
Yeah.
We all have to be better together.
We all have to be better.
It just helps,
I guess I'll go home and unload the dishwasher.
So, yeah.
Instead of just taking one dish out at a time.
That's a terrible
habit.
Terrible system. Yeah, man. So, are you going to rate the book or not? Because you said you...
Actually, I had 11 minutes left of the book that I didn't finish.
So if it was me, turn it around. If it was me and I said I had 11 minutes left, would you let me rate the book?
For whatever reason, I feel like being a stickler.
Really? You would say what?
I mean, I would let you rate it.
Okay, but you would say no because you're like, technically.
Okay, I'll just put an asterisk on this rating. How about that?
That's fine, because I don't care. I'm gonna let you rate it if you want to rate it.
This rating, it'll just be like in the record books for like the athletes and stuff when they did steroids. Okay, So I'm going to go ahead. I'll give this a 4 out of 5 anti-lynching laws.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to give this one.
And it's not because it was in any way lacking. It was just because it wasn't what I was in the mood for this week.
That's what's
I
up.
wanted Doritos. This was salmon and potatoes and a vegetable.
Ooh, no, it was no potatoes. It was it was straight up no carbs.
No, there were some potatoes. Like, it still was, it was written well.
Okay.
That was the starch.
All right, that's what's up.
That helped move it along.
Okay, I like it. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it. Yeah, I gotta give it 5 out of 5. Naps.
No.
Because rest is resilience.
It is.
And
resistance.
Shout out in all of it.
And really good.
I don't even have to say why. That's why.
That's why.
That's my.
Because I said so.
Because I said
you
so.
love it because I said so.
Boom. So that's it. But yeah, that's my rating. And friend, let's move on to spinning the wheel. We gotta get the hell up out of here.
We do. I gotta pick these kids up from school. Okay. So next week, no books, no thinking, none of that. We are watching the newest season of Emily in Paris. The newest 5 episodes just dropped. They're dropping the other episodes next month. We're going to watch it and we're going to talk about it. I've already watched it, but now
I'm going to watch it.
And I just, because I hate that show. I was so excited it was coming back. And at the same time, I cannot stand Emily. Just same way like
it's
Bella.
Been like that.
It's like Bella.
She's the worst.
Where it's like I can still enjoy the Twilight books and been like, I do not like this main character.
Sometimes that is kind of fun. I will give you that. And so yeah, let me see what all the hubbub is about. Now, let me ask you, do I need to go back and watch the first season before I see the second season? Like, is it gonna make sense?
Moni.
Wait, is there more than 2 seasons?
Yes, there are more than 2 seasons. You're just going to start on this new season and you'll be fine because it's not that complicated. It's very much like a soap opera. Or a reality show. Speaking of reality shows, started watching Love Island.
Really? Love Island, friend?
It's something I would have loved in the 90s. Like it's very, remember Temptation Island?
I do.
From Fox.
I do.
Very similar.
Okay, all right.
You know, it's just hot people doing hot stuff in bikinis. And they're like, I'm just looking for love. There's a lot of that.
Okay.
But we're not watching that. Okay. We're watching Emily in Paris. If nothing else, for the clothes.
And also, too, I get it. I get it. Sometimes we just have to. You have to. It's a palate cleanser, if you will. You gotta get it out. Yeah, because this was a lot. Resilience is a lot.
It was, and this helps my resilience.
Yeah, it does.
Frivolous sitcoms.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, friends. Well, you guys, tap in. We will come back next week and do it all again with some fun stuff. I'm sure we'll have 3 hours to talk about Emily in Paris. So join us next Wednesday. Share our podcast, you guys. Subscribe. Also, too, if you're not part of our Patreon, please join our Patreon at the F.A.B Podcast /Patreon. And actually, that's not right.
Well, I don't know about all that.
Wait.
Let's just go back. Okay. Your body belongs to you.
It does.
So, excuse me. So if you have an excess of air in your, intestinal tract, just let it out.
Yeah. Top or bottom, doesn't matter.
That was just the top.
Or bottom, I'm saying.
I'll just let everybody know I don't fart on the podcast.
Okay, bye.
Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezene M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers. Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again, and until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.